We've gone over the protocol for indirect ELISA. So the advantages of indirect ELISA is that there's a wide range of secondary antibodies that are commercially available, and we can make our own primary antibodies in a mouse model or some other species, and then we can use different combinations of primary and secondary antibodies, and it makes the process more flexible and somewhat cost efficient because we don't have to order new secondary antibodies for every time we want to do a new assay. So there's increased sensitivity because there can be more than one epitope on the primary antibody that the secondary antibody binds to. This amplifies the signal that's generated, allowing you to detect smaller quantities of the sample that you're trying to assay. Disadvantages include cross-reactivity between the two antibodies, and there's one extra step compared to direct ELISA. We don't need this nomenclature, we can skip this. So direct ELISA is basically the same, just that instead of having two antibodies and the secondary antibody being enzyme linked, your primary antibody is enzyme linked, so you apply the primary antibody, which is enzyme linked, and then you can use a substrate to get a signal. So advantages include it's quicker, there's no risk of cross-reactivity. Disadvantages, the first one is quite significant, the fact that the immunoreactivity of the primary antibody is somewhat compromised because of the enzyme that we are linking it to, which means that the primary antibody might show decreased affinity for the antigen that we're trying to assay, and there's no signal amplification, so it's less sensitive than indirect ELISA. So sandwich ELISA is quite popular. More often than not, when we're talking about ELISA, we're talking about sandwich ELISA. So in sandwich ELISA, we coat our wells with a capture antibody, shown here in blue, and then we apply the antigen, and then we can apply a primary antibody that's enzyme linked, or we can have a primary antibody, and then on top of that we can use a secondary antibody that's enzyme linked. We use a substrate, and then we can detect the signal. So sandwich ELISA is very specific because the antigen is specifically captured and detected. It does not require prior purification of the sample. It's flexible and sensitive, and you can use both direct and indirect detection methods on top of the antigen that's been captured by the capture antibody.